Hello, everyone. I'm happy that you were able to join us today for our 2025 Pharma and Medical Device Trends for Manufacturing Leaders. My name is Matt Lowe. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for MasterControl, and I will be your presenter today. And again, happy to spend a few minutes with you today talking about some of the things that we're seeing coming down the pike in the next 12 months. Just for a little bit of background on Master Control and who we are, Master Control is a provider of manufacturing execution and quality management systems to the life sciences industry. Today, we count over 1,000 pharmaceutical and medical device organizations that use our products throughout the world, and we've been servicing the industry for over 30 years now. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our material for the day. I will say if you do have any questions as we go throughout the presentation today, please be sure to drop those in the Q&A window, and we will get to as many of those as possible at the end. If we can't quite cover all of them in the time that we have, then we will follow up with you after the webinar today. So let's start off our presentation today by talking a little bit about current state in the life sciences industry. First and foremost, I think this is something that we've been seeing for a number of years now, and that's the whole idea of personalization of medicine, therapies, devices. How do we achieve patient-specific outcomes that are going to be optimized for individuals and not just the masses? This is a big thing over the next several years that is really going to allow us to improve quality of life and longevity. Many of you are probably keyed into the number of books that are out there right now, very popular around longevity and how that's changing. And we play a very important role in that in the life sciences industry. So, patient-specific outcomes, a big thing that we're seeing out there. The second thing here, new technologies and industry models. Things are changing all the time in this regard. We're going to talk quite a bit about new technologies today, and even some of the newer models that we're seeing within the industry that are changing the way that patients expect and receive their health care. This last one here, harmonization. This seems to be a topic that recurs over and over again. I've been in the industry now for 25 going on 30 years, I guess it is. And we've been talking harmonization the whole time that I've worked in the industry. And that applies, from the regulatory framework perspective with compliance, ensuring patient safety, but also, harmonization across therapies and how do those work together in an ecosystem rather than, by itself in a silo. That holds true for providers as well when we talk about the provider side of healthcare. So, kind of setting the stage there as we look into 2025, we're going to break it up into these four sections: technology, therapeutics, the macroeconomic environment, and then what we're seeing from a regulatory framework and a legislation perspective. And let's go ahead and start with technology today. Probably fitting, given that we are a technology company. And it should come as no surprise that this is where we start today. It seems like you can't listen to any kind of a podcast or a news broadcast, read an article. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence and how it is revolutionizing the world. That's no different for the life sciences industry. Yeah, everyone is trying to figure out how do they apply this new technology to their core competencies to increase speed to market, decrease cost, improve quality, make things more efficient, discover and identify new things much faster than what would have been possible even a year ago. Whenever I talk about this topic, it's still staggering to me that generative AI really didn't burst onto the scene until 2 years ago. We are 2 years into this technology being kind of mainstreamed, and we're still trying to figure out, okay, what can it do? What shouldn't it do? All the different ways in which we can use this. Another thing to think about here, that second point on the slide, yeah, there's a study out there that says 80% of consumers aged 18 to 34 report a willingness to use generative AI. And I think the younger you go in that age band, the greater that willingness, and I would even go to say expectation to use generative AI. And as providers, manufacturers of products in the life sciences space, this is really important to understand because as we bring new generations into our workforce, we need to do so with the understanding that they expect to be able to use these next generation tools like generative AI. And if we're unable to provide those kinds of experiences for them, there's a good chance they're not going to stay in the industry. Scribbling in, data points on a paper batch record for somebody coming, out of school, they're not going to love that experience. In many cases, they've been born with one of these in their hands, and their entire life is digital. Uh, you know, Even myself, from a generative AI perspective, I use an LLM more than I use traditional search on the web. Yeah, that's how fast this is changing. Traditional search has been around for a long, long time, and in the space of 2 years, I'm already relying on a tool that's been out a lot less because it gives me the information that I want in the right way. So I think as an industry as a whole, we're going to really continue to see this accelerate, and it's critical for us as we build our next generation of life sciences professionals. So if we move into some of the other areas that we're seeing with impact here, uh, I alluded to this a little bit. Reducing the time to actually bring new therapies to market, and there are studies out there that are saying by as much as 1 to 4 years. That is pretty incredible. When you think about new molecule formation and discovery, there is a lot going on in this area with regards to AI. We're headquartered here in Salt Lake City. There's a prominent pharmaceutical company here locally. Their whole business is built around this idea of being able to discover new medicines much faster using artificial intelligence. Increased productivity, that comes across the board, regardless of function in which you work in the business. So whether that be, finance, quality assurance, manufacturing, the science side of things with discovery and R&D, all of those areas are seeing increases in productivity, and on average, we're seeing 35% there. Uh, Down on that last bullet point there, when things go wrong, you have to investigate and identify root cause and pull together the data. You have 30 to 40% improvements in the effectiveness of those investigations. So not only the effort to actually get everything together and perform the investigation, but the outcome, the effectiveness of what we find from those investigations. And that's really what we're looking for as an end goal is, how do we become more effective in remediating things that have gone wrong so they don't go wrong again. Now, AI, yeah, there is a precursor that has to happen before you can actually get to AI, and that comes around the digitization front. In a study, 31% of life sciences professionals indicate that digitalization and automation projects are a big part of their capital focus for the coming year. That's almost a third of folks that participated in the study. And we think we're seeing such a dramatic rise in this area because folks understand if I'm going to be able to leverage and utilize these artificial intelligence tools, well, it's really hard to do that with a piece of paper. So I've got to get that digitized before I can actually take advantage of these next generation technologies. So what does that mean for us across the product life cycle? We just talked about accelerating the journey all the way from R&D into commercialization and out into post-market surveillance through the manufacturing process, et cetera. Uh, it allows us to tie together the different parts of the product life cycle in ways that haven't been possible before. And this, constant stream of data across that life cycle is part of what fuels that acceleration of the product journey itself. Finding new ways to automate processes, that share data part. Oftentimes what slows collaboration down in the product lifecycle process is just getting people the right data at the right time. And we should add the right people getting that data as well. How do we automate that? How do we make sure we are meeting people where they are? They're getting the data they need to execute their part of the process relative to the life cycle. And then ultimately, continuous improvement. I mean, this is something that we're always striving for. When we have the data when and where we need it, it's much easier to really take advantage of continuous improvement opportunities. And I might add in that AI can also help in a big way here and really point us to areas where improvement may be needed, and even recommend methods for achieving that improvement. And that's where we get into more predictive and recommended approaches to improving our processes and making them more efficient. Okay, technology. That's a fun part. Let's get into therapeutics themselves and some of what we're seeing here coming in the new year. So we look across production process and standardization. Uh, if you look at early on, we talked about personalization of medicine and what that looks like. Yet we're we're doing a good job on the discovery piece of things and identifying new treatments that we believe are going to improve lives and really help people. There continues to be difficulty in scaling up the production processes for these types of therapies. Uh, yeah, standardization, being able to create building blocks that can then be leveraged and assembled in different ways to rapidly adapt to these kinds of treatments where you may be producing a batch of one, for example. Making that cost effective continues to be a big challenge for our industry, and we believe that it's going to continue to get a lot of focus. So we're excited about that one. Combination products, we've talked about this one for a couple of years now. Bringing drugs and devices together, both in the manufacturing process as well as through the delivery mechanism in the healthcare system itself. Uh, Companion diagnostics are a big part of this. When we're able to identify early on if a patient is going to benefit from our particular therapy, that helps bring efficiency and effectiveness into the healthcare system. Other things that we see here, how do we make it easier for patients to administer therapies? A good example, I think, here is GLP-1s. And what we have today, it's an injectable. You have to draw up a specific amount based on patient. How do we maybe make that delivery easier for the patient? Whether that's through preloaded syringes, pen type devices. Those are all things that we expect to continue to evolve and advance in the coming year. And ultimately, you get into different administration methods altogether. Moving out of injectables and out into oral dose, whether that's liquid, suspension, solid, whatever it may be. So we expect to see continued innovation on that front as well. This was one that was a little surprising. Yeah, rise in over-the-counter medical devices, and you can see the AirPods there with their recent approval as an over-the-counter hearing aid. Yeah, really paving the way for more devices like this. And as we see artificial intelligence introduced into these types of devices, how does that change the regulatory framework and the way that people use these devices? We're going to get into that a little bit more when we talk about the regulatory and the legislation landscape here. So if you think about what needs to happen in order for OTC devices to continue to advance and gain traction in the marketplace, ease of use, huge part of this. How do we continue to reduce risk for these types of uses or these types of devices in very broad use cases and patient populations? I think that going back to technology, data, plays a big role in this. I think that's one of the main things that the regulators are asking us to do is making sure that we continue to monitor the performance, the progress, things that may go wrong with these devices once they're out into the marketplace. And I believe that artificial intelligence will certainly play a role in our ability to do that more effectively. So let's jump to our third spot here, and that's the macroeconomic environment. And this, I'll admit, is the hardest one to prognosticate on. Even people that are professionals at this and do it for a living, they oftentimes get it wrong. So I'll put it out there, and we'll see how many of these actually came to fruition when we do this again in 2026. So macroeconomic, we talked a little bit about, the change in industry models, and one that we're seeing really start to catch hold are direct to consumer models. What we know is that, 3 out of 10 consumers struggle to pay their current healthcare costs. And one of the ways in which we can reduce cost to the end patient are these direct to consumer type models. We've seen these start to take hold in the past few years. One that came early to the market was Lilly Direct. They are you know, really putting some investment here and trying to understand the ups and downs of this direct to consumer type model. And we also saw Pfizer come into this space with Pfizer for All. And these are just 2 examples of programs that we expect will continue to emerge and gain traction. Again, I think it allows us to cut some cost out of the delivery chain for therapies and devices. It also allows us as life sciences manufacturers to be closer to the patient and to understand how our products are being used, what problems patients are encountering in a more direct way than we may have been able to do in the past. So interesting to see how this one continues to evolve. Now, I will point out, for anyone that may be joining us out of the EU, this is not allowed yet. It'll be interesting to see if something happens on that front in the EU, but not something available in that market yet. So this is something that we've been seeing for a number of years, and that's the continued rise of the CDMO. A survey that was out there says that 1 in 5 of the manufacturers in life sciences are now using at least 100 partners. So just think about that for a minute from a complexity perspective and how important it is as manufacturers that we're able to keep our arms around that partner network and understand what is happening in each part of our product life cycle and our manufacturing processes. And whether you're, an end stage, labeled provider of therapies, or you're in the contract development and manufacturing chain, really important that we continue to find ways to share data. It goes back to right people, right time, right place. That's what's going to allow us to really work seamlessly across our entire supply chain, and give us the opportunity to identify areas for improvement. And those will always exist when you have distributed supply chains like this. Um, we'll talk a little bit more about this too when we get down into the legislation part of the presentation here. Uh, but if you think about it, strong partnerships. What do you expect? Flexibility, scalability. We've talked about these advanced technologies, whether that be in the true technology stack, kind of IT space, whether that's in the OT space from a manufacturing perspective, the platforms, the modalities. These are all things that folks expect. And oftentimes it's why there are so many different partners across our supply chains and product life cycles. Okay, well, this brings us kind of to our last section of the trends that we're seeing for 2025. Uh, I mentioned, we just were talking about the CDMO space. For us here in the U.S., one of the big things on the legislation front, the regulatory front, the Biosecure Act. You can see a quote here from Wuxi Aptech, one of the CDMOs that is directly impacted by the Biosecure Act. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. There's a new administration in the United States. How does that play into this? Uh, you know, what what changes do we see in the pharmaceutical services landscape that come about because of legislation like this? And will it spread beyond the U.S. too? It is a good question. Again, a little bit like the macroeconomic environment, it's pretty hard to prognosticate on these types of things and make predictions here. So I started off early in the presentation talking about regulatory harmonization. Like I said, I've been at this for almost 30 years now, and this is a perennial topic. We did see the FDA's Part 820 and the EU MDR legislating or regulating medical devices come into closer alignment with the ISO 13485. And I think that's a great step forward. It makes the regulatory environment more efficient and predictable for those of us that operate within it, within the medical device industry. So I applaud the efforts here and look forward to see what kinds of savings efficiencies we can see that will allow us to make our therapies, treatments, devices more accessible to the global patient population. If we pivot to the pharmaceutical side of things with ICH, ICH, their whole organization is built around harmonization. We know that there are efforts there to further harmonize the CMC portion of pharmaceutical regulations. So it'll be great to see some advancements there. And again, allow us to have a framework that is both more efficient and predictable across the different geographies in which we operate and sell our products. This is a good spot to kind of tie things up on the trends. We started off in technology with artificial intelligence. We might as well end with regulation and legislation with artificial intelligence. Toward the end of last year, we saw the AIA come out in the European Union, an attempt to start to lay forward. A regulatory framework for artificial intelligence and specifically some of the generative AI and these things that are learning and changing. How do we make sure that those don't run amok on us? Uh, It'll be interesting to see how other parts of the globe follow the European Union here. Um, we do expect to see some legislation in the US. Uh, with respect to FDA specifically, we've seen a number of draft guidances come out. There was one that came out toward the end of last year around AI in drug development. There was one that just came out after the beginning of the year that talked about the use of AI in software used in medical devices. I think this is definitely an area that the regulatory agencies are wrestling with. They're trying to understand it just like we are. We actually had a representative from the FDA come and speak at our annual user conference in October last year. She sits within the office that is looking at AI regulation. Um, as I spoke with her, some of the big topics, the kind of big idea type things. How do you regulate and monitor devices that could change once they've, received their authorization or approvals and are now out, in the patient population? Uh, we see a real desire from FDA for us as manufacturers of these products to really have a good handle on ongoing monitoring and specifically with regard to safety and performance of our products that may incorporate these new technologies. So everybody learning together in this space, I expect we'll make some wrong turns, we'll make some right turns. The desire will be that we identify which were right and which were wrong quickly, and we correct course where necessary. So I think this is a space that we're going to see a lot of change in, both this year and in the coming years as these technologies continue to evolve. So looking ahead in 2025, how do these trends all kind of come together? And we think about it kind of in three main points: innovation, simplicity, and value. And this is, specifically with the way we come to market at MasterControl and the tools that we provide to the industry. These are the pillars upon which we're operating. And one of the big areas where we are innovating is in the manufacturing execution space. This is a space that has existed for many, many years. It has not achieved great adoption in the industry, largely due to cost, time. inflexibility of the systems of the past, innovating a way to really overcome these hurdles and make manufacturing execution systems democratized, available to all. That this is a big focus of what Master Control does. If you have questions about how we're doing this, we certainly would love to talk to you. Simplicity is a big part of this. How do you make it such that an operator that has never used a software like this can just pick up a tablet and know intuitively what it is they need to do to complete their job? So I think these principles of innovation and simplicity, while obviously core to what we're doing at Master Control, applies broadly to our industry as well. And then ultimately value. And even as we come out of this presentation talking about trends in technology and advancement, innovation, at the end of the day, technology for technology's sake is not likely to gain traction. So making sure that the end users of our technologies are achieving value from what it is they're using, and that typically again comes in the form of providing the right data at the right time to the right people. We talked also about that connectivity across the product lifecycle and the various functions within our organizations, providing that continuous stream of data, product information, all the way from conceptualization to sunsetting of a product. Really important to tie those pieces together. So at this point, we'll go ahead and open it up for some Q&A. Again, use the Q&A box in your Zoom window there, and we'll see what we get. All right. It looks like we've got a few questions that have come through here. The first one that I'd like to address says, our organization understands the benefits of fully digitizing and automating processes, but we don't have the budget to get there all at once. Are there interim steps we can take to get started? Yeah, I think this is a great question. And I'll cast it kind of in the framework of manufacturing execution. Yeah, since we're talking about trends in manufacturing, I think that's an appropriate place to start. Uh, Oftentimes, I think one of the things that has prevented people from adopting manufacturing execution more broadly is this idea that they have to do it all at once. Well, one of the things that we've seen, particularly with next generation solutions, is you just start. You don't have to have all of the integrations in place right out of the gate. There's tremendous value to be had just in what we call native automations, things like calculations, limits checking, validation of data entered in fields, auto time stamping. There are tons of things that you get just in that process that bring cost savings, efficiency, fewer errors, higher yields, without having to swallow the elephant all at once. So don't be afraid to start and then continue to iterate and evolve as you identify more and more opportunities for efficiency and automation. Big bang projects are a thing of the past. Yeah, we've been developing software and agile methodology for many, many years now. We should take the same approach with technology and IT projects as well. So hopefully that answers that one. The next one that I'm going to pick up here, somebody asks, the relationships we have with contract manufacturing partners are mostly just transactional. Can you recommend how we can make those relationships more like collaborative partnerships? Well, I would say first and foremost, that should be very high on your list of requirements for selecting the right contract manufacturing partners. Make sure that you're finding one that is collaborative and that has the systems and the processes in place that allow them to be collaborative. I go back to that idea of data sharing. Does the CMO or the CDMO have the platforms in place to be able to share the data that's needed to truly be collaborative? Uh, do they allow you to come into the systems as a guest or a partner and see your processes and whatever it is you may be working on together? I think having that shared data network really goes a long way to helping the collaborative process. And it's of course a two-way street. You've got to be able to share the data as well. We have to be good collaborators on the industry side as well. So I think this will be the last one that we pick up in the time that we have today. This one says, how have you seen people balance the need for innovation in manufacturing with compliance? I think this is something that we struggle with a lot. And, oftentimes we'll uh, go into one of our clients and look at a manufacturing process that they have in place. And it's become rather unwieldy because over, 10 years of audits, each finding has had something that was introduced into the manufacturing process for very good reason at the time. But nobody's ever gone back and challenged, do we still need that? Is that something that is providing value to the process, or have we progressed beyond that? So a willingness to really go back in and look at why are we doing these things? Is this truly a compliance issue or a compliance risk today? Is it something that maybe we can accomplish in a different, more streamlined way? And ultimately, you get back to your risk framework. If you're looking at each thing through the eyes of risk assessment, really identifying where is your highest risk, applying your mitigating action there, and then in lower risk areas, what experiments are you able to run to streamline the process and improve efficiency? So definitely a balance there. But kind of long and short of it is don't be afraid to ask, why are we doing it this way? Uh, because there may not be a reason anymore. And that takes some courage and some bravery, but I believe you'll see some good outcomes because of that. So that brings us to the end of our Q&A portion here. We'll go ahead and end by inviting you to download our trends brief. You can scan the QR code on the screen here. It's a good deeper dive into what we've gone over today. We do come out with these at the beginning of every year, so we invite you to come visit us next year and see how good we were in identifying the trends and our forecasts there. Thank you again for attending, and we hope to see you again on a future webinar.